Welcome to the Blue Collar Wealth Club.
I am Jerry Garcia.
I'm Sheena White. Today we are talking about exit planning. A lot of people, when we talk to them about their businesses, the whole point of them starting a business is to eventually sell it.
Well, and for most people, that's their retirement plan, right? That's the only plan they have. And we've come across several businesses lately that we're interested in selling, but when you kind of dig into the situation, the businesses aren't very sellable. There's really not much to buy for a myriad of reasons. So it's important to understand in planning for an exit what buyers are looking for.
Yes, definitely. And didn't you say you had read something that like 60% of businesses are actually never sold?
Yeah, and this was for Biz Buy Sell's website in particular.
Okay.
And it might have been as high as 80% of the businesses that actually go on to Biz Buy Sell never actually get sold on there. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the most prominent ones is because people just don't know, when they start these businesses and they feel like, hey, look, I'm making money doing this. I'm making good money. Why wouldn't somebody want to buy that? I think we want to go into why that is, what you can do to turn that around and plan for the better. And
I had a friend, a colleague, and she's a financial planner, and she had asked me to look at this business for her clients because they were actually planning on just shutting it down and not selling.
Right.
And I was like, this business is worth like $1 million. What are you doing?
Right.
You're their financial planner. Tell them, no, you are not allowed to leave $1 million on the table. And they actually did end up selling that business. Not quite for the million I wanted them to, but
more than zero.
hundreds of thousands of dollars that they did not have in their pocket before. So it was definitely a win. And so what the difference is, and we talk about a lot, and I'll harp on forever, is how integral are you owner in the day-to-day operations?
I think that's the key with any business.
Yeah. If you are the linchpin, that if you're not there, that everything falls down, I'm sorry, you've become really important in your business and it's really unsaleable.
Right. We talk about this all the time. E-myth, not being the technician, not being the person who does the work, not even really being the manager, the person who manages, being the entrepreneur, being the one who sees the overall vision of this business, does the things to make it grow, to make it scale, to make it profitable.
Yeah.
If you're not filling that entrepreneurial role, you're filling one of the other two, which means that when you sell that business, the new owner has to replace you.
Yeah.
And that costs money. Whatever you think it's worth right now because of how much money you're making as the owner is reduced for the person who's buying it, if not outright eliminated.
Well, and maybe not even that you are in the day-to-day operations, but that you're the face of the business.
Right.
I use the example of there's a company here in Denver. It was called Rod Martin's Complete Basement Systems. And that guy was like everywhere all the time, right? And he became quite old, and I'm assuming wanted to sell it. And then all of a sudden, he was kind of in the commercials less, and then it became Complete Basement Systems, Groundworks company. And now it's just Groundworks.
Okay.
But this company, Groundworks, when they bought it, they had to go through all of these phases because Rod Martin was so integral and he was the face of the company so hard that they had to go through and spend so much money on rebranding because they basically had to rebrand 4 times to get it from where it was to where they wanted it to be.
Right.
Which if you don't have you being the face and the person of the company, it's a lot easier for a new owner to step in and kind of take over that.
Because I think there's a lot of businesses like that, and they've had to either overcome that and just outgrow that person. Jake Jabs, American Furniture Warehouse, local business in Colorado here. He was the face of it, but it grew to the point where he is still part of it, but he's not necessarily the first person that new customers associate with the brand.
Yeah.
But it takes some work. And if you have built everything around you and all the marketing and all the branding is done around one person, what happens when that person no longer wants to be part of the company?
It becomes very, very precarious, I mean, because if somebody's buying into your company or buying your product because you're the guy, if you're not there anymore and you're not the guy there anymore, then it actually hurts your enterprise value or you have to stay on. And there's a lot of intricacy there that a lot of buyers just don't want to deal with the hassle, especially when you get into a buyer's market where there's more businesses for sale or people who want to sell them than there are people who want to buy them. And that's generally the way it works, especially if you don't have any real estate attached. So you have to, just like if there's a ton of houses for sale, you got to make yours the prettiest one on the block. You have to make your business the prettiest one on the block for someone to want to buy it.
If I'm a buyer and I'm coming into business and I have two businesses that operate essentially the same type of service, and I'm like, all right, well, this one is very, generically branded, but has a great reputation. And this one is tied to this one person. Well, this one just seems a lot more attractive now because I don't have to deal with the rebrand.
Mm-hmm.
The brand is already there. I can keep the branding. We can buy it under a new LLC or something, but keep the overall branding of that business, operate with that strong reputation that's already been built.
Yeah, and you're not tied to that human. And a lot of times, especially when something is so set on one person, a lot of times they also have a lot of issues giving up the reins of that.
Right.
And buyers know that too. And they're like, don't want to deal. They don't want to deal with that person's ego. So you have to look in yourself and say, oh my gosh, am I that person that kind of has the ego that once I sell this business, I'm going to still tell everyone I'm the owner, which I've seen before. I'm actually in the middle of dealing with a client. She bought a business and the old owner just doesn't seem to get it. It's like she wants to still drive the car after she got it.
Usually
when
you buy a business, right, usually the previous owner stays on for a period to help you transition, to make sure everything transitions appropriately and as seamlessly as possible. But in this case, that is one instance where that can create a problem, where the previous owner still wants to control things and still wants to do things their way, refuses to give up that control. That becomes a negative side to keeping them on board. And now you either have to make a decision to A, cut them off completely and just deal with the transition bumps that you're going to meet without having that person around, or B, keep them on board and having to deal with whatever control they're still trying to take and dealing with all the stress and the headache of that.
And especially like private equity buyers, like they know that ahead of time. They've already been down this road.
Right.
The professional business buyers, if they think that even any of that smells of that happening, they're not going to buy your business because it's just not worth the headache. There's 10 other businesses exactly like yours who don't have that headache that they can go buy. Another thing is you not having good financials.
Right. If you're not keeping good books, you're not keeping good reports, if you're not keeping track of things. I mean, when we tell you we're going to go through these lists, these are the things that we're looking for as we look to buy businesses. And financials are key.
I had one of my clients, somebody approached him to buy their business, and it was an adjacent industry. It would have potentially been a great get. We sat down, the gentleman who wanted us to buy the business gave us his financials, and his balance sheet was completely negative number. Do you really have negative $253,000 in your bank account? And he was like, what? Why would you ever think that? I'm like, well, the piece of paper you gave me says that. And he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, I don't know. I'm going to have to get a hold of, my guy and figure this out. And then a couple weeks later, they sent us new financials and everything, like literally every single number had changed.
Yeah.
Which is scary to me. And I told my client, I was like, no, we're not going anywhere near this. I'm like, I don't care if he wants $5 because we're not doing it because it's just not worth it. He doesn't have good financial controls. And even though he had somebody who was supposedly an enrolled agent doing these for him, they were terrible. And, if you give me a set of books and then 2 weeks later you give me something that's literally 100% different, I'm going to ask to see the actual books, and they wouldn't let us. And I was like, yeah, we just got to walk away. And that's the thing. If they can't trust that you're giving them the correct finances, a potential buyer is either going to just straight walk away, or it's going to hurt the amount that they're going to be willing to pay, whatever that multiple is, because every single bit of mess they have to clean up is money not in your pocket.
A lot of bookkeepers, the way that they operate is they operate to kind of solve the issue, whatever issues they're having reconciling the book.
If I see reconciliation discrepancies as a journal entry, then I automatically hate your bookkeeper. Reconciliation discrepancies, it means that the bank, whatever the bank is saying, whatever your books are saying, don't match. And instead of actually going back and figuring out why they don't match and fixing the issue, they just use funny money and make it go away.
Click a couple buttons. Hey, these didn't match. I fixed it. Now they do. But that doesn't tell you why they don't match. And there can be a lot of hidden stuff in that if it's not, if it's done for the wrong reasons. Most of the time, that's not the case. Most of the time, it's just that they don't want to take the time to go back and figure out where the discrepancy is and fix it. This is just the easy way to fix it. But once again, these are not good financials. So if we're looking through and we see something like this and we see it repeatedly, then it becomes a question of, okay, well, where is all this coming from? Books haven't been kept properly. Is there money going somewhere it's not supposed to be and being hidden this way? There's a lot of other issues that can come into play if you see that over and over again in the books.
Oh, yeah. Like I just had a new client we were onboarding. There was a debt line item that they had zeroed out using opening balance equity, which is basically funny money. It's an actual bill that they owe. It's still showing. And my client, but if I was a potential buyer looking at that, I would be instant out. If I saw something where you had a debt line item that you had zeroed out using opening balance equity and then you had deleted it, I would be like, sorry, I'm out. I'm not going anywhere near your business until you get that fixed, because I don't know what's up. I don't know what you owe, who you owe. For a client, I will dig and dig and dig for a client, because I'm like, okay, we got to fix this. For a potential acquisition though, you need to get your house in order. And it can't be like back of the napkin. You have to show that you're a business owner. Put yourself in the buyer's shoes.
Right.
If somebody came to you and said, hey, I want hundreds of thousands of dollars for this thing that I can give no attribution for, and I just have to trust you, like, are you going to say, sure?
Yeah. Business buyers want to see things that make sense and things that they can track so that they know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
And if there's too much wiggle room in those numbers, uncertainty, then it's just not worth it.
Well, and they want to see plans for the future, right? One of the main things that I do with my clients is to help them create a 3-year vision and then create a rolling 36-month plan to achieve that vision. That is actually a huge thing for buyers, because if you can say, hey, look, 3 years ago, I created this plan and I got there, and this is my plan for the next 3 years, they will sometimes give you credit for some of the stuff that hasn't even happened yet, because you proved in the past you achieved it. So, and you showed them the plan to achieve it in the future. So you can sometimes get credit for, revenue that hasn't even occurred.
Right. Yeah, because they can see that there was a thought process and a plan that was executable. And so they can trust that the next one executable as well and doable, and they kind of have a game plan for how to do that when they take over.
Yeah, and you've already done all the work for them, right? They just have to, it's become the more plug and play you can make it in terms of your systems, your processes, your finances, and your plan for the future and how they're going to get a return on their money. The more plug and play you can make that, the more money they will be willing to give you in order to let them have that plug and play. And so you have to really think about that. What is the end game? Somebody once was telling me that strategy requires a destination, because if you don't first set the end point and say, okay, then what does the strategy get here? Then any strategy will work. Strategy is just a thought of a way to get to where you want to go, but you first have to determine where you want to go. So that's the same thing with, okay, do we stick with contractors or do we do employees? If you have zero desire, if you're just using a business as a cash cow and you have zero desire to ever have it be saleable, then whatever, do what you want to do. But if your end game is that you want an exit of, of a high multiple, then you have to think about that and you have to move towards bringing those people on as employees.
Yeah, I think that's key, right? Those multiples. I don't know. People talk about that a lot in the business acquisition world. I don't know how familiar business owners are of this, but when you're selling, you're usually trying to sell for the highest multiple possible, meaning your SDE, are you selling it for 2 times that, 3 times that, 4 times that? The higher the multiple, the more money you're getting. The way that you get that higher multiple is to have a business that shows at purchase that it has longevity. The longer that business can survive without your input, without having to tweak too much, the more multiples you're entitled to when you sell that business.
Yeah, and the more growth potential.
Right.
And then a lot of it, and then we get into customer concentration. And so you don't have to go and get others.
Right. And it's great. It's great for bringing business in the door, right? 60% of my business comes from this one client. Well, that's actually a detriment when you're going to sell the business. So what your next goal has to be is, great, Now I'm going to basically have a staff dedicated to servicing this account. And now I need to go build the rest of my business around that so that the percentage that that one account brings into my business is less, because you don't want one client to be able to destroy a large portion of that new owner's business.
Yeah.
Especially if you have close ties with them and that loyalty goes out the door as soon as you sell it. If they don't know the new owner or they don't care for the new owner, then they can just choose to walk at any time. The more important thing is that large client knows that they have leverage when a new owner comes on board. If they are aware that they are such a large percentage of income for that business, they can go to the new owner and say, well, maybe it's time to renegotiate our rates. We had talked about doing this with the old owner, and now that you're coming on board, I think it's a good time to renegotiate. They know they have leverage over the new owner because they know that without them as a client, that business suffers tremendously. They now hold the majority of the cards in making that play.
Yeah.
And that's not great for the new owner.
A potential owner, they know that, and they don't want customer concentration. For every shark, they want 100 minnows. You have to have a diverse customer base, and you have to have diverse ways of getting your customers too. If you only use one channel, say you only use Facebook ads, well, what if your Facebook gets turned off tomorrow? Then you have no business. So it's something that you can't ever start too early, but you need to know that it does take time to get there, and you don't want to end up trying to start it too late when you're just like done and wanting out.
Right. You don't have to build your business for exit only when you're ready to exit, right? You can keep that business as long as you want, and then maybe you don't want to sell it. Maybe you've built it in such a great capacity that you're just like, all right, well, I'm just going to hold on to it and I just get to collect profits.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just a cash flowing asset, then why? I mean, that would be like, selling a rental home that makes you a ton of money. Would you do it? Maybe if you decide you want to go buy something else, but maybe not. But yeah, but it's something you need to start thinking about now. But that seems very short-sighted to me. So don't do that, okay? just plan for an exit and do the things you need to do to make it saleable.
Sooner than later, because you don't want to get to that point and realize that you still have 3 to 5 years worth of work left to put in when in your mind you've already decided you're done.
Yeah, most definitely. So,
because then you are talking about just shutting it down or selling it for pennies on the dollar. This is not a one-time thing. The goal is to keep buying businesses and to keep implementing the same strategy that we're teaching you guys, that we can continue to build our wealth, continue to build our mostly passive income, and really plan for the future.
Yeah, and build our impact. Like, we have a lot of stuff we want to do in the community and in the world. I had a mentor once that said you can't give away what you don't have. In order to give away more, we have to have more.
Absolutely. Exit planning is a very big topic. We want to get more into it, and we'll discuss more about what to do once you hit that exit. We'll plan for that on another episode.
Yeah, we will talk more about what to do with your big pile of money, and then also some other fun things with exit planning. We just wanted to give you a little snack today.
All right, until next time.